Bringing you the news from here at home and across the world live on Newsfirst. This is Primetime News. A very good evening. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
And I'm Madhushka Balasuriya. Let's start off with a look at your headlines.
19th Amendment to the Constitution passed with a two-thirds majority. All praises to President for fulfilling promises.
මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන ජනාධිපතිතුමා ජනතාවට දුන්නු පොරොන්දු ඉටු කරන විශ්වසනීය නායකයෙක් බව ඊයේ මධ්‍යම රාත්‍රිය වෙනකොට රටටත් ලොවටම ප්‍රදර්ශනය කළා තියෙනවා.
JRලා MRලා ඔක්කොම පරාදයි.
Letter containing the signatures of 90 MPs urging that the central bank governor be removed handed over to the speaker. Police used as force to disperse inter-university Bhikkhu Federation students.
Take a look at those stories in detail now. President Maithripala Sirisena says the adoption of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution with a two-thirds majority in Parliament is a historic victory for the Sri Lankan people. Issuing a statement, the Presidential Media Division said that President Sirisena thanks all stakeholders who contributed to this effort.
President Maithripala Sirisena says that this victory is a result of a 37-year-long struggle of the active citizens of Sri Lanka, adding that it is his belief that this victory is relevant not only for today but also for the future generations. President Sirisena thanks all stakeholders who contributed to this effort, including the Mahasangha, religious leaders, political parties and civil society groups, active citizens who struggled, sustained and enriched the discourse of this amendment. The President specially thanked the members of Parliament and political parties who supported this amendment. The statement reads further that though presidential candidates had promised to abolish the executive presidency at 5 previous presidential elections, this is the only time it could be made a reality. In his statement, President Maithripala Sirisena goes on to say that this is a major step taken to strengthen the democracy of the country as it was achieved constitutionally in compliance with the determination of the Supreme Court and also with the consent of all political parties.
Welcome back to the news. Now, the significance of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution is mainly the curtailing of the powers of the executive presidency. News First takes a look at the fundamental changes that have been made with the new amendment.
One of the major changes made by the 19th Amendment is the establishment of the Constitutional Council, which in turn will re-establish the independent commissions. The amendment will curtail the President's powers in making appointments to major government institutions. The establishment of a Constitutional Council and Independent Commission through the 17th Amendment to the Constitution was weakened by adopting the 18th Amendment to the Constitution. The 19th Amendment to the Constitution will repeal the 18th Amendment while replacing the now defunct 17th Amendment to establish the independent commissions. The Constitutional Council will comprise of 7 persons representing Parliament, including the Speaker, the Prime Minister and the Opposition Leader, as well as 3 professionals. The 19th Amendment to the Constitution will establish the commissions pertaining to the elections, state services, national police, audit services, human rights, investigate allegations of bribery or corruption, finance, national policy planning and university grants. The powers that were vested with the President on making appointments to the aforementioned commissions, as well as to appointing judges to the Supreme Court, have been distributed amongst the Constitutional Council and the commissions. According to the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, the President's term will be limited to 5 years, while a President can only serve for 2 terms. The President can only dissolve Parliament 4.5 years after the House of Legislature has been elected. The powers vested with the President on removing the Prime Minister have been abolished and replaced by the passing of a no-confidence motion or the defeat of a budget. However, the President will continue to serve as the head of the Cabinet and will be considered as a Cabinet Minister. The new constitutional amendments note that the composition of the Cabinet of Ministers and their respective subjects will be decided by the President seeking the advice of the Prime Minister. Also of significance in the 19th Amendment to the Constitution is that the right to information has been accepted as a fundamental right. In addition, the audit process has been expanded and companies with over 51% of shares held by the government will come under the Registration of Companies Act, paving way for an audit.
Various views were expressed on the 19th Amendment to the Constitution today. Let's have a listen to some of the views that were expressed.
රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ අගමැතිතුමා ඇතුළු එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂය ඒ සමහර එක කණ්ඩායමට උරාම තිබුණේ
The United National Party, inclusive of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, did not have the need to pass a 19th Amendment to the Constitution. They were having an agenda of going in for immediate elections. He pretended to be a hero using his powers and told MP Ganeshan, who represents a minority party, to shut up. When he requested for the amendments in a language comfortable to him, he was asked to shut up and sit down. All the articles pertaining to private media institutions were removed by the Supreme Courts. In this backdrop, they attempted to replace an article similar to that and tried to control the private media institutions. The task that the United National Party failed to do in 100 days was done by us, who entered the government in 100 hours.
දින 100ක් ඇතුලේ කරන්න බැරි වෙච්ච වැඩේ එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂ ආණ්ඩුවට පැය 100ක් ඇතුළතදී මේ ආණ්ඩුව ඇතුළට ගිය අපිට පුළුවන් වුණා මහා ලොකුවට මාධ්‍ය වීරයෝ හැටියට කෑ ගහන අය ගෙනාපු ඒ අහිතකර වදන්ති.
The harmful articles that were brought by the so-called media heroes were removed by us, and we provided media freedom. However, it must be said that the only person who was capable of amending the constitution of J.R. Jayawardena was Maithripala Sirisena. Therefore, he has etched his name in history. He has touched the hearts of the people. He became king. We are happy and we take pride in saying that such a person is the chairman of the party.
එතුමා වෙස්සන්තර කෙනෙක් වුණා අපි ඉතාම සන්තෝෂ වෙනවා. එවැනි කෙනෙක් අපේ පක්ෂයේ සභාපති ධූරයේ සිටීම අපට අභිමානයක්.
මේ තුලින් අපි පණිවිඩයක් දීලා තිනවා. අපි පක්ෂයේ හැටියටත් සංධානයේ හැටියටත් ජාතික යුතුකම් ඉටු කිරීමේදී
we have sent a clear message that when fulfilling our national responsibilities as a party and as an alliance, we will work together. By midnight yesterday, it was made clear to the country and the world that President Maithripala Sirisena is a trustworthy leader who fulfills the promises made to the people.
රටටත් ලොවටමත් ප්‍රදර්ශනය කළා තියෙනවා.
JR ලා MR ලා ඔක්කොම පරාදයි.
The JRs and MRs have been defeated. A farmer's son who hailed from the village has changed the course of history. Various forms of things were said until the last moment. There were many agendas and mechanisms brought in. That is the law, justice and security. They put forward the shield of national security in order to commit many wrongs. Only one person said that he was against it. Some failed to appear in parliament. They will provide their excuses in the future. There are 6 others too.
මම හැමදාම කියන ප්‍රතාපවත් බව තියෙන්නේ මොලේ හදවතේ. ඇඟේ නෙවෙයි. උඩු රැවුලේවත් නෙවෙයි.
නිවැරදි සම්මුතියකට අනුව ක්‍රියා කරන්න අපේ නායකයෝ සමත් වුණා නම් විශේෂයෙන්ම මාර්තු 15 වෙනිදා එකඟතාවය.
If our leaders were able to operate under correct consensus and if it was implemented on the 15th of March, we would have been able to curtail even more executive powers. We were told to remove the wings of the bird known as the executive. Some wanted to behead that bird. Finally, what was achieved was the removal of the wings. If what we suggested was implemented, more could have been achieved.
මීටත් වඩා දේවල් ලබා ගන්න තිබුණා. ඇත්තටම තවත් එහාට යා යුතුව තිබුණා.
මේ සංශෝධනය මේටත් වඩා රටට හිතකර බලගත් සංශෝධනය බවට පත් කර ගැනීම ඉඩ තිබුණා.
There was a possibility that a powerful amendment that will be in favor of the country could have been achieved. However, because of a conspiracy, that chance was taken away. The UNP's Prime Minister believes that he will be able to obtain power in the next election and become Prime Minister again. Therefore, he is using the constitution in his own view and believes that he will be the Prime Minister. This power struggle is what took away the provisions which makes this a most important constitutional amendment.
මෙන්න මේ බලපොරේ මේ විවස්ථා සංශෝධනය වැදගත් සංශෝධනයක් බවට පත් කිරීමේ ඉඩකඩ යවුවා. මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ තුන්වෙනි පාරටත් දාලා තියෙනවා.
For the third time, Mahinda Rajapaksa said that the executive presidency will be abolished. Did he do it? President Maithripala Sirisena became flexible and thought of the country and the people and fulfilled the promises made to the people. I do not believe that the qualities he possesses is evident in any other leader who arose after the country achieved freedom.
කිසිම නායකයෙකුට තිබුණා කියන එක මම විශ්වාස කරන්නේ නැහැ.
This is not a complete freedom. Many important things have not been included on the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. However, there is good governance to some extent. It was President Maithripala Sirisena who led this victory. He is the one who needs to be praised.
එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයට තිබුණේ ඉතාමත්
The United National Party had a narrow-minded political objective. This objective was to establish the power of the UNP and Ranil Wickremesinghe. That is all they wanted to do. The best example to prove this is the inclusion of an extraordinary article which is not evident anywhere else in the world. That is, if the major political party in parliament and the second largest political party come together to form a government, the 30-member limit on the cabinet will not be affected. Such an article cannot be found anywhere else in the world. An all-powerful prime minister instead of an all-powerful president. The Prime Minister was not elected and he has no mandate.
අගමැතිවරයා රට පත් කරියෙත් නැහැ. වරමකුත් නැහැ.
ලොකු අනතුරක් වෙන්න ගියේ. මේ 19
We were on the brink of a massive danger. Once it was said that the 19th Amendment to the Constitution had been planned, it was clear that it was to take away the power of Parliament and the people's mandate. That was the plan they had. We were saved from that.
ඒක අපි බේරගත්තා.
ගිනාවේ නායක නම් සම්මතුනේ ගැරණි.
If it was a cobra that was brought in, what was passed was a water snake. The Prime Minister did not receive any of the President's powers. We have received information that Ranil Wickremesinghe is lamenting that this did not favour him and it is not fruitful. They tried but they failed. But now it is embarrassing for them to say that they could not achieve what they had planned. They cannot lament now because they had planned a big celebration for this. That too cannot be cancelled. Now they say that they achieved it. It was a big victory and they did something to JL's constitution. No, they did not. He said that they had not received any information pertaining to the right to information bill. It was to be brought in on Monday. However, according to the information that we have received, there is an attempt to re-include the clauses that were removed in fear from this amendment through the right to information bill.
Now, the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was adopted with a two-thirds majority in Parliament late last night. The second reading of the bill passed with 215 votes in favour, while the third and final reading passed with 212 votes in favour.
The vote on the second reading of the bill on the 19th Amendment was held at about 7 p.m. last night. While 215 MPs voted in favour, MP South Veerasekara voted against. 7 MPs were absent while 1 abstained. A tense situation arose at the commencement of the committee stage debate, prompting the Speaker to adjourn the House for 15 minutes.
එසේ ලබා දී නොමැති නිසා
මන්ත්‍රීවරුන්ට ලබා දීලා ඇති බවට තමයි දැනුම් දෙන්නේ.
තාම ලබා දීලා නැහැ. සියලු සංශෝධන දීලා තියෙනවා. මේවා ලබා දෙන්න කියලා විනාඩි කිහිපයකට හරි නවත්තලා ලබා දෙන්න. බුල්ඩෝස් කරන්න ලෑස්ති වෙනවා නම් අපිත් ලෑස්ති බුල්ඩෝසරයට මුහුණ දෙන්න. 15කින් 20කින් අපි නවත්තලා පටන් ගමු. අපි මේ කියන්නේ නිකන් නවත්තන්න.
The House convened 15 minutes later for the committee stage debate.
We send you the English one. We send you the English one. Okay, we'll send it to you. English. You're right. You came on the UMP vote, man. Shut up and sit down. You're right. කිසිම දෙයක් මට තේරෙන්නේ නැතුව කොහොමද මේක ගෙනියන්නේ අපි දැන්? සිංගල කතා කරන්න. මට මේක ඕනේ මට කතියක් ඕනේ මට. කතියක් ගන්න කොහොමද මේක ගෙනියන්නේ? ගාඩු කතා දැන් හොඳට තේරෙන බව පේනවා. ඒ හින්දා සිංහල සහ ඉංග්‍රීසි දෙකම ඔක්කොම දන්නවා. මේ එතුමා අයිති එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ තීරණය කරලා තියෙන මේ දෙකෙන් අපි වැඩ කටයුතු කරමු කියලා.
During the debate, further changes to be made to the bill were taken up.
Shall be the head of the cabinet of ministers ඒක දැන් තියනවා and should hold the portfolio of defence. The cabinet
පාර්ලිමේන්තුව තුල ජාතික ආණ්ඩුවක් පිහිටවන
I submit the amendment that in spite of what is stated in the Constitution, in the event of a national government being formed, there should be 45 cabinet ministers and 55 deputy ministers.
ගේ සංඛ්‍යාව 55ක් වශයෙන්ද විය යුත්තේ යනුවෙන් සංශෝධන ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා. මේ ජාතික ආණ්ඩුවක් කියන වචනේ
In order to obtain an interpretation of the phrase national government and what sort of government it would be, we will have to go to the Supreme Court. A clear definition is needed. Call it an instance when the party with the most seats and the party with the second highest number of seats form a government together. Space for the dissolution of parliament has been restricted. This clause must remain to enable the dissolution of parliament. Through this clause, you are preventing parliament from being dissolved until 4 years have passed.
තමුන්නාන්සලා අවුරුදු 4ක් යනතුරු පාර්ලිමේන්තුව විසිරවා හැරීම හිර කිරීමක් මේ වගන්තියෙන් කරන්න. ඒක තමයි වෙනස අපි කරන්න මේකෙන්. ඒ වෙනස ඔබතුමාලට කරන්න පුළුවන් ඔබතුමා බහුතරයක් තිබුණා නම්
We are against the 4-year limitation. We are against the extension to 4 years. We cannot agree with it. That is why this has been submitted. If you do not accept it, a vote must be held. You must have been in another frame of mind when it was discussed. If we do not work thoughtfully today, a sad situation will arise. The situation now is that any MP can go to court if there is a problem in the party.
අධිකරණයට යන්න පුළුවන් ඕනම වෙලාවක മന്ത്രി කෙනෙක්ට පක්ෂයේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් වුණොත්. එහෙම තියන්න දැන් තියෙන තත්ත්වය.
We saw in the recent past that parties are not being governed by the party or by leaders. At times, in district courts and in high courts, all political parties in Sri Lanka are being governed by courts. Then why is the power being given to the lowest court?
අපි මං හිතන්නේ පක්ෂයක අයිතිය රකින්න.
Just as we protect the rights of parties, we must also protect the rights of MPs.
දේශපාලන පක්ෂයේ අධිකාරී
If the political party authority has taken a decision without thinking of the MP and in violation of natural justice, then there must be some protection for the MP.
නෑ කරන් තියෙනවා නම් മന്ത്രിවරයාට යම්කිසි ආරක්ෂාවක් අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා.
සියලු පක්ෂවල ගරු മന്ത്രിතුමන්ලා තමන්ගේ බෙල්ලේ වැලදා ගන්න එපා මේකට ඡන්දේ දීලා.
ගරු മന്ത്രിතුමා එකට විරුද්ධ වෙනවා නම් අපි ඒක ඉවත් කරගෙන ඉදිරියට කටයුතු කරන්න සූදානම් කරනවා.
ප්‍රශ්නයක් තිබුණේ election commission එක ගැන. Each commission shall be responsible and answerable to parliament.
චන්දෙන් තෝරාපත් කරගෙන ජනාධිපතිවරයා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට answerable responsible කියලාත් කියනවා නම් කැබිනට් එක responsible කියලා තියෙනවා නම් මේ ඉන්ඩිපෙන්ඩන්ට් කියන්නේ කොහෙද කවුද කොහේ යන්නේ කද්ද මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුව කියන්නේ ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂය විපක්ෂය අපි ඔක්කොම ඉන්න තැන මෙතනට වග කියනවා කියන එකෙන් ස්වාධීනත්වයට අබමල් රොණක හානියක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ
මම ඉල්ලා ඉන්නවා බෙදීමක් තිස්ස විතරණ මන්තුමාගේ සංශෝධනය ගැන.
The vote on the third reading of the budget was conducted by name through a roll call.
212 in favour, 1 against, 1 abstention, 10 absent. The third reading is passed.
නොපැමිණි 10යි. තුන්වෙනි කියවීම සම්මතයි.
මේක ඓතිහාසික අවස්ථාවක් කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයෙන්.
This is a historic occasion. We have ensured the people's rights by establishing a presidency that is accountable to Parliament through the cabinet. We discussed all of this and 100% of all our hopes were not met. Nevertheless, we reached a consensus.
අපි හැම එක්කනම බලාපොරොත්තු 100%ක් ඉෂ්ට වුණේ නැහැ. කෙසේ හෝ අපි සම්මුතියකට පැමිණියා.
අපට අවශ්‍යයි
We need a good electoral system. The 19th Amendment has been passed. The people are now hoping that the 20th Amendment will be passed rapidly too. That is their aspiration.
විසිවැනි ව්‍යවස්ථා සංශෝධනයත් ඉතා ඉක්මනින් අනුමත කර ගැනීමේ අභිලාෂයෙන් තමයි මේ රටේ ජනතාව ඉන්නේ.
The 19th Amendment was passed last night with close to 70 changes to the bill.
Now, the following views were also expressed in Parliament last evening during the debate on the 19th Amendment to the Constitution.
Now, there is also this effort to introduce electoral reforms. And electoral reforms is an issue which concerns the entire nation. There are parties which represent minority interests. There are parties which have minority political interests. They have all got to be consulted in a process in introducing electoral reforms. And I'm sure those people who argue that the stability of a future government must be protected by introducing a system which will ensure that a party which gets past 50% of the vote should have a stable government. But that alone should not be the criteria. In my opinion, stability would be ensured by also accommodating minorities. If you don't accommodate minorities or minority political opinions within the chamber of this house, that in itself can destabilize governments and destabilize the country. And this we have experienced in the past.
The most fundamental issue, the president of this country, who had been given the powers that have been vested in the 1978 constitution, has come forward and democratically told the people of this country, I don't need these powers. I want a power that to democratically run this country. And if these powers cannot be exercised is not going to be exercised by the president. The president has come to this august body and said, please delete my powers and I'm going to run this country in according to a democratic system of prime minister and the cabinet of ministers. If that cannot be accepted by the opposition, then what are we asking for? What is the democratic power you're asking for? What are we canvassing?
Meanwhile, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa also had his say. He said that certain positive features can be seen in the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. The former president made this observation at a meeting held at the Abhayarama Viharaya in Narayanpeta today.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa held a meeting with a group including university lecturers at the Abhayarama Viharaya in Narayanpeta this morning.
That තිබුණු ගැටලුකාරී
පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ජනාධිපතිවරයා වග කියන්න ඕන කියන එක.
The fact that the president is responsible to parliament is a pleasant sign. I believe that it is good. If you take a look at some of the details in this regarding the commissions, the public service commissions are now independent and the bribery commission is independent. Those who requested for these independent commissions have made these institutions responsible to parliament. I believe that this is a good sign.
Minister Sajid Premadasa states that the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was approved with the sole strength of the President despite criticisms. He made this comment at an event held in Hambantota.
The laying of the foundation stone of the new building for the Surya Veva National School was held under the auspices of Minister Sajid Premadasa.
A Maha Gambira Sinhotika Bohoma Hila Pudgalin Hatita Villa Esemai Ehemai Pakshai Pakshai Pakshai.
These proud lions have become tamed humans. They in fact chanted, yes, yes. It was none other than the president's influence. He never threatened others, never sent out white vans, never said he has files and never said that he would reveal their personal information. His humble and clean politics is the reason behind the approval of the amendment with the majority's vote. It is because of this that we were able to obtain 212 and 215 out of 225 votes. It is the humble political leadership that goes hand in hand with normal people that will win in the end. This is the first time an executive president turned down his powers. He promised the public that he does not want this power. He acted accordingly, saying that he cannot betray his people.
225න් වර එක 212ක් තවත් විටක 215ක් වැනි ඉහළ ප්‍රතිශතයක් අපිට ලැබුණා.
The 82nd commemoration of the late Sir Anagarika Dharmapala was presided by President Maithripala Sirisena this morning.
The commemoration event, which was attended by the head of state, took place at the Mahabodhi Agrashavaka Mahaviharya in Mardana. The president paid floral tributes to the statue of the late Anagarika Dharmapala, located at the premises of the Mahabodhi Agrashavaka Mahaviharya. Subsequently, the president worshipped the sacred relics of Arahat Sariputta and Mugalan, placed at the Mahabodhi Agrashavaka Mahaviharya.
මහුඟාක්ම සන්තෝෂ වෙන මීට අමතරව 19 වෙනි ව්‍යවස්ථා සංශෝධනය මගින් බලතල අඩු කරගෙන
I'm really pleased that this is the first event the president is attending after curtailing his powers through the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. In an era where no one lets go of their powers, you have let go of your powers. I see this as the same scenario where the late Anagarika Dharmapala let go of his wealth and positions. I believe that your name too will be written in gold in the history books of Sri Lanka, same as the late Anagarika Dharmapala.
ඉතිහාසයේ රන්නකුරෙන් ලියවෙනවා ඇතේ කියලා මම විශ්වාස කරනවා.
අනාගාරික ධර්මපාලතුමා මහා ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨත්වයකින් මුළු මහත් ජාතියට දායාද කළ
The great examples and guidance of the late Anagarika Dharmapala for the entire nation will not be erased from the history of our country. The services he rendered will be carried throughout centuries to come and will always be remembered by the Sinhala Buddhists as fine examples. Commitment to the establishment of a just society is the greatest respect we can bestow on him.
අපි යහපත් සමාජයක් ගොඩනගන්න කැපවීම තමයි අනාගාරික ධර්මපාලතුමාට කරන ලොකුම ගෞරවය කියන එක මා ප්‍රකාශ කරමින් මගේ කෙටි වචන ස්වල්පය අවසන් කරනවා.
5 new heads of foreign missions, including the High Commissioner of the United Kingdom and the Ambassador of France, presented their credentials to President Maithripala Sirisena.
The presentation of credentials was held at the Presidential Secretariat in Colombo this afternoon.
James Doris, the High Commissioner Designate of the United Kingdom, presented his credentials to the President, followed by Jean-Marie Chou, the Ambassador Designate of France. The Ambassadors Designate of Croatia, Bahrain and Hungary also presented their credentials today. James Doris's appointment as the UK High Commissioner to Sri Lanka was announced in December 2014. Issuing a statement on his appointment, he said, quote, "I am excited about taking our relationship forward at an important time and to working with Sri Lanka on issues that matter to both our countries." Doris joined the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office in 1995 and served most recently as British Ambassador to Peru for 4 years. During his career with the Foreign Office, Doris had worked in London on South Asian European Union and other issues and has served overseas in Russia and in Colombia. The new French ambassador to Sri Lanka, Jean-Marie Chou, is also a career diplomat with extensive experience. Chou, who is multilingual, previously served as Chargé d'Affaires in India and has served in China, Pakistan and Afghanistan as well.
In some business news, a motion has been presented to the Speaker requesting that the Governor of the Central Bank be removed. MP Bandula Gunawardhan announced that the proposal, which was signed by 90 parliamentarians, was handed over yesterday.
90 parliamentarians signed this proposal. We propose to the Speaker to remove the Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran, who was involved in the largest interest loss of 45 billion rupees to the country. The proposal is to debate the issue in Parliament and come to an approval. With the majority's vote for his removal, the proposal will be then referred to the President. We believe that the President will be able to remove the head of the country's entire financial system.
The Prime Minister is ignoring the laws and is acting with complete impunity. It is absolutely disgraceful behavior. The son-in-law of the Governor of the Central Bank has a history of manipulating the bond and stock markets. His involvement in the wanton waste of public funds is absolutely clear. Those involved in this shameful wastage of public funds must be arrested and brought before the law. The Governor's integrity has been questioned. He admits to a failure himself. John Exter, the founder of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, is on record as saying that anyone whose integrity has been questioned should not be serving at the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. He must be turning in his grave. Clearly, the Prime Minister and the Governor of the Central Bank are taking the public of Sri Lanka on an almighty ride, and it must stop.
Well, in more local news, the first report on Sri Lanka's status on the economic grid compiled by the Oxford Business Group is scheduled to be launched in January 2016 at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. This was revealed at a media briefing held prior to the signing of the MOU between the Oxford Business Group and the Board of Investment of Sri Lanka.
$63 investments are awaiting approval, and 82 have been approved and awaiting signing of the agreement. And there are 121 companies awaiting implementation, and there are 220 companies awaiting commercial operations. Now, what we have been busy within the last 2 months, we are trying to overhaul and then going for a change of thinking pattern and the culture, where we are trying to project ourselves more as a facilitating agency than a regulatory agency. There have been so many fair amount of bottlenecks that have been that have come up in different areas, particularly from the side of the Treasury and also different other groups of people getting involved in this decision-making process, which we have now created the situation without these bottlenecks. It is the BOI and the BOI only that will be responsible for the decision-making process with regard to the approvals.
What we really are after and what we're trying to do is work together to inform the international business community that Sri Lanka is an emerging economy that offers not only strong growth but attractive and abundant opportunities and an extremely strategic global location. What we have found over the past 20 years is that without a doubt, the best way to produce a credible report is to work with local experts.
In other local news, police fired water cannons and tear gas at a protest march organised by the Inter-University Bidco Federation today. Police took this step when the protesters attempted to forcibly enter the premises of the University Grants Commission.
The protest march commenced from opposite the Fort railway station, citing several demands which included the curtailing of the recruitment of monks to universities. Tensions flared when the protesters attempted to enter the UGC.
Nepal Prime Minister Sushil Koirala has offered condolences to the families who lost their kin in the devastating earthquake and announced 3 days of national mourning. In a broadcast to the nation, Koirala said his government was doing all it could for rescue and relief on a war footing.
The Nepalese premier thanked the world community for lending its support to his country and hoped they would also help in the future for the rehabilitation and reconstruction of the country. In another development, according to foreign media reports, aid has begun to reach remote regions near the epicenter of Saturday's devastating earthquake in Nepal. As 4 days have passed since the 7.9 magnitude earthquake struck, the death toll has now surpassed the 5,000 mark. Speaking earlier, the Nepalese Prime Minister warned that the number of people killed in the country's worst earthquake in decades could reach 10,000. Sushil Koirala's comment yesterday came as rescuers in Nepal were struggling to reach remote communities. Meanwhile, another Sri Lankan contingent of aid workers with equipment and supplies left for Nepal today to assist in the relief and rescue mission. Army media spokesperson Brigadier Jayanath Jayavira said that a contingent of 97 military personnel left for Nepal. Brigadier Jayanath Jayavira added that the contingent was dispatched to Nepal on board a Sri Lankan Airlines flight with medical and food supplies. Meanwhile, media spokesperson of the Disaster Management Centre, Sarath Lal Kumar, said that they have stopped accepting relief items to be sent to Nepal.
It must be mentioned that we have received a sufficient amount of relief. Even today, we were able to airlift around 20 metric tons of relief to Nepal. This included essential goods and medical supplies. We are taking measures to airlift another batch of goods to Nepal in the next few days.
The Sri Lankan medical team that has commenced aid work in Nepal has treated 400 injured people so far. Major General Maitri Dias, who is commanding the Sri Lankan Rescue and Relief Contingent currently serving in Nepal, said that patients with serious injuries have now been transferred to hospitals in Kathmandu after receiving initial treatment. The Sri Lankan Rescue and Relief Contingent are carrying out their rescue and relief operations from Dolalgad, a remote worst affected area about 60 kilometers away from Kathmandu, Nepal. Speaking to Newsfirst, Major General Maitri Dias said that roads and communications in the area have fallen apart.
Deputy Minister Sujiva Senasinghe says that there are false allegations emerging against him regarding a copper deal. The Deputy Minister made this revelation at a media briefing yesterday.
නීතිජෝරයෙක් වශයෙන් මම සදාචාර සම්පන්නව මේ කරන අන්තිම නඩුව නියෝජ්‍ය ඇමතිවරයෙක් වශයෙන් අපිට
As a lawyer, this will be the last case that I will be handling. As deputy ministers, we have the right to be present in court. PREVFPO 800-2013 is the number of this case. This case was initially handled by Namal Rajapaksa's law firm called RR. They took 2.5 million rupees, but they did not do anything. That is why the client came to me. I have been doing inquiries for this case for 1 year. Even though I did not directly represent this case, a lawyer handled this matter, and it was because there was no proof in relation to the container that I intervened and told them to release it. The individual who introduced himself as a journalist of the newspaper spoke to me and obtained all the information. Later, it was reported in this newspaper that after I was appointed as Deputy Minister, I have made unnecessary influences while appearing in the Court of Appeal. I will be taking legal action against this, especially against the newspaper and newspaper. Mud has been slung at me on numerous occasions, especially with regard to an actress. One time they slung mud at me saying that I had an affair with a female parliamentarian. That is why I would like to request all media organizations to work responsibly. Do not sling mud at us for lies. I called and asked if any information had been obtained from the Customs Director General or an officer at inquiry. But they said, "No, Mr. Senasinghe, no one called us." Who is this senior officer who has not even contacted the relevant people for this matter?
තොරතුරක් ලබා ගත්තා කියලා පුළුවන් මම කතා කරලා ඇහුවා. අපිට කවුරුත් කතා කරේ නැහැ මිස්ටර් සේනසිංහ කියලා කිව්වා. එහෙම කතා නොකර ඊට අදාළ පුද්ගලයන්ට කතා නොකර කවුද ඒ සීනියර් ඔෆිසර්?
The procession carrying the sacred hair relic and the relics of the Maharahat Theros to the Sirsa John Keel's Vesak zone commenced this morning. The procession began its journey after a special Theva ceremony that took place at the Nelligala International Buddhist Center.
The Amisa Puja, which initiates the celebrations of the Sirasa John Keel's Vesak zone, commemorating the 3 stages of Lord Buddha's life, will take place at the MTV MBC head office premises located at Braybook Street, Colombo 2. The sacred hair relic of Lord Buddha and the relics of the Maharahat Theros were brought to the Nelligala International Buddhist Center, where the Mahasangha presided over the religious observances and rituals. The event took place opposite the Sri Shakya Singha Pagoda in Nelligala and was attended by senior officials of the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited, John Keel's Group and many others.
The devotees will celebrate this Vesak Poya by meditating and following the Amisa principles. As the Mahasangha, we are extremely pleased with institutions such as Sirasa taking the initiative to organize Vesak zones. The Vesak zone, where there will be many a devotee, will be the Sirasa John Keel's Vesak zone. Many other Vesak zones are being organized across the country based on this Vesak zone. Their relics will be worshipped. However, this large meritorious endeavor has been created by the Sirasa Media Network and the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited. As John Keel's Holdings, we are pleased to have partnered with the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited and MTV MBC Networks in creating the Sirasa John Keel's Vesak Zone. We are pleased to provide an opportunity for the devotees to pay homage to the sacred relics of Lord Buddha and the relics of the Maharahat Theros.
අද ධාතුන් වහන්සේලා මේ කුටියෙන් එළියට වඩම්මන මොහොතේදී අප විශ්වාසයන්ට අනුව සතර.
At this time, when the relics are taken out of their enclosures, we believe that the gods will protect them. They will receive protection from the air and on the ground. This will be a cultural heritage for the children in the future in order to organize many more such events.
අනාගතයේදී සවිමත් දම්වලක් විදිහට මේ පුංචි දුවා දරුවන්ට සංස්කෘතියක් බවට උරුම කරાવી හෙට දවසේදීත් මෙබඳු උත්සව පවත්වන්නට.
අපි යටිගලගල රජමහා විහාරස්ථානයේ सर्वरात्रिक परित्राण धर्म देशनावකින් ආරම්භ කරලා පසුදින සංඝගත.
We initiated the Dhamma sermons at the Yatihalagala Rajamahaviharya. The next day, we conducted a puja for the clergy. We have printed these pirits and gathas and will be distributing them along with other religious material until we reach Colombo. We invite all to visit the Vesak zone and obtain blessings.
සහ පිරිත් නූල් අපි මේ ස්ථානයේ සිට කොළඹ දක්වාම බෙදා හරිමින් සියලුම ජනතාවට ආරාධනය පින්වතුන්ට ආරාධනය කර සිටිනවා මේ වෙසක් කලාපයට සහභාගී වෙලා තමන්ගේ ශ්‍රද්ධාව දියුණු කරගන්න.
අපිට සමාජමය වගකීම් තිබෙනවා.
We have social responsibilities. We have come together devoid of any differences. In order for many devotees to obtain blessings, we invite all to join hands with the Vesak zone and also to be on either side of the route of the procession carrying these sacred relics.
ඒ වගේම මේ ධාතුන් වහන්සේ වැඩම කරන ගමන් මඟ සමග අපත් එක්කලා එකතු වන්නට කියලා ශ්‍රී ලංකා වාසී බැතිමතුන්ට.
A Dhamma book including a number of gathas that is to be distributed among the devotees at the Sirasa John Keel's Vesak zone was presented to the Mahasangha. The special chest in which the relics were placed was then moved into the procession, carrying them to the Sirasa John Kills Vesak zone amidst the chanting of Pirit. The procession reached Galagedara through the Aladenia junction and then Mavatagama and Uyandana. Devotees who were on either side of the road received the opportunity to pay homage to the sacred relics. The procession stop for the day was the Riddhi Viharya in Kurunagala.
Out of all the media networks in the country, the Sirasa Media Network is one that gives a special place for Buddhism. Since I cannot go to Damadeva, I came here to pay homage to the sacred relics.
The procession carrying the sacred relics will commence its journey from the Riddhi Viharya in Kurunagala at 7 tomorrow morning. The procession will then make its way from the Thalgodapitiya junction Ibbagama Kurunagala and then proceed to Narammala and Matiyagane on the Nigambu road and arrive at the Mayuravati Raja Mahaviharya.
And finally on sports news, Yasa Ramachandra was elected as the president of the Sri Lanka Netball Federation today. Sanjeevani Vanasinghe was elected secretary at the Netball Federation election held at the Sports Ministry Auditorium in Colombo today. In other sports news, the 32nd Sports Fest Gamata Krida program was held at the Deyandara National School in Mathura yesterday. The Gamata Krida program, organized by Sports Fest with the support of the Mathura Samurdhi Community Development Foundation, was held at the Deyandura National School. Training camps were held on track and field athletics, cricket, volleyball, netball and kabaddi. Several national and international level coaches participated in the program. Well, with that, we conclude today's edition of Prime Time News. Thank you very much for joining us as always. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
And I'm Adushka Balasurya. Good night.